What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new, hey, I'm Sydney. Every single Thursday I sit down, I talk about the craziest true crime in every single state, the one that stuck out to me the most. So if you like true crime, you should subscribe. Let's address the elephant in the room before I get started, okay? Yes, I've been gone a month, but I'm back. Let me explain. So we had a snowstorm at the beginning of the month that I didn't post. Probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we had a very crazy snowstorm. I didn't post because I just didn't really I wanted to be lazy. You know, it was a snowstorm you're stuck in. Probably would have been the best time to film and edit and everything, but I really just took that time to just take a break from everything, take a break from work. I didn't have to go to work. It was good. It was a good break that I needed. Then that next week, we had so many games, so I didn't get to film then, and then I got sick, and as I got sick, I lost my voice for almost a solid 2 weeks. I'm just now getting my voice almost completely back to where it needs to be. I genuinely couldn't talk. I was sick, and then whenever you're also screaming because of the games, when something good happens, or whenever a player does something, you know what I mean, just screaming about that. I'm a softball coach. Let me get that out of the way just in case nobody understood what I was trying to explain. I'm a softball coach, so I lost my voice during a game because it was freezing rain and I got sick because of it. When I went to Texas Roadhouse and worked, just talking so much made it go away for the next 3 days after I started getting it back. I'm so sorry that I was gone for so long, but now I have my voice back and we didn't have games for the last 3 days, so I'm able to sit down and film, and I've been able to take some time to do some research and everything for the upcoming videos, so be ready for that. Also, hello spring, you know what I mean? We're in spring, okay? I don't care if it says just normally we're supposed to still be in winter. We're not, okay? It's 80 degrees outside, has been for a week, but it gets down to the 40s or 50s at nighttime, so go off. Spring background. It's on YouTube, so if there's ads playing in the background, I'm sorry. Today's video is an unsolved murder. So if that is something that is triggering to you, I do not think that this is the video for you. Just giving a disclaimer, there is drugs and domestic abuse, physical, all that stuff. There's a lot of abuse in it. Also just murder and death. If that is something that triggers you, please kick off this video. I just wanted to warn you guys. So I haven't filmed this so long, so I'm getting so tongue-tied. Just bear with me, please. Alright, so without further ado, now that I've gotten all of that out of the way, this week's video is about Samantha Folsom in Maine. If you know anything about the case, possibly, there are going to be some numbers down below, but we'll just get into it. Samantha Turner Folsom was born February 6, 1985 in Little Rock, Arkansas. Only shortly after, just a few months after that, in May of 1985, her family decided they were going to move up to Lewiston, Maine. Samantha's parents describe her as a very loving kid who just loved life. She was a cheerleader, and she was a really good cheerleader, according to her parents. She never got into any trouble, and she absolutely loved her parents. She loved going out in public with them and was not embarrassed with them at all. She really loved spending time with her family. After high school, Samantha sadly fell into some drug addiction, according to Jolene, Samantha's mom. She said that she had a really uneasy feeling about this new boyfriend that she was hanging around, and his name was Jesse Folsom. Her mom just really didn't like this guy. She knew in her gut that this was just not the guy for her, and he was possibly getting Samantha into some trouble. Her parents despised Jesse and constantly argued with Samantha about Jesse, but Samantha just wouldn't give it up. She loved him. You know, just that typical thing whenever you really just don't want to hear your peers or your parents say that they don't like your new boyfriend, because you're just blindsided, you know what I mean? Whenever you find the person that genuinely just you think is that person, you don't really understand why other people don't like him. That's kind of the vibe that I get with the whole family not liking Jesse. So shortly after Jesse and Samantha started dating, Jolene, who is Samantha's mom, started seeing dark bruises all over Samantha's neck and body, and she knew that her gut feeling to begin with about Jesse was true, because this just kind of indicated that Samantha was in a domestic abusive relationship with her new boyfriend. Samantha's mom, Jolene, decided she was going to sit them down and talk to them about what was going on, that she was starting to see a difference in Samantha's behavior and she just kind of wanted to put an end to it. And whenever she sat the couple down, neither of them denied it. They both admitted that this was going on. Even Jesse admitted that he was like hurting Samantha. Even though Jesse was not liked by Samantha's parents, they both kind of supported the relationship whenever they did start to see a change after this first initial talk that they had with the couple. Samantha's dad, John, actually sat down with Jesse a few nights out of the week for a few weeks to help him study for his GED, and also he tried to help him get into the army. So it started to look up for the couple. It was a new life, it was a new beginning, and the parents could see a change in Samantha and Jesse's behavior. Everything was starting to get back to normal. The couple got married and decided to move to California because this is where Jesse was going to be stationed in the army. Sadly, it was not a start to a new life. It was not a new beginning. It did change, but it was for the worse. Samantha's parents don't really know if it was a front for them to be able to move to California and get their parents' blessing, or if it was just genuine change and then it just got worse whenever they moved to California because they were in a new environment. But she did start falling back into drug addiction. Samantha's parents explained that whenever she would come back home just to visit, her demeanor was different. She seemed almost introverted and angry and didn't want to be there. She wasn't as bubbly as they remembered their daughter being. I mentioned earlier that Samantha fell back into drug addiction whenever she first moved to California, but her parents didn't know this at the time. Finally, Jolene, just with that gut feeling, that mother's instinct, thought that this was going on, and she confronted her about it, and this is when Samantha just broke down and explained everything. She said whenever they first moved to California, she developed a drug addiction and she tried to quit on multiple occasions, but she just couldn't. And it's not said if it was because of Jesse, it's not said if it was just because addiction's hard to overcome. It didn't say exactly what it was, but she just couldn't seem to shake off this addiction. On one visit, Samantha came home and explained that she had a crazy severe pain on her right side, and her mom thought maybe it's appendicitis, so they took her to the emergency room to just have her abdomen checked to see what was going on. And this is where she found out that she was pregnant. It was an unplanned pregnancy, a big surprise, but Samantha knew that in order for this baby to be fine and safe and have a healthy pregnancy, she had to overcome this addiction. And it seemed that she did. She had a pretty healthy pregnancy and gave birth to a baby boy. And this is whenever Samantha knew that she needed to get out of this toxic relationship and this toxic behavior due to Jesse, because it never started until she started dating Jesse. But she decided, I'm gonna pack up my things, pack up my son, and I'm gonna move back home to Maine. Samantha got her own apartment, and this apartment was relatively close to where her parents lived in case she needed help with her son or anything, or just want to be close to her parents. She decided so she could have a better life for herself, but mainly for her son. She explained to her parents, I want to go to rehab. I want to overcome this once and for all. I want to end this. She explained to her parents, I need you to take me to rehab, and I need you to watch my son. So the son started I don't remember if it said with her parents or also said family members. That's what it said. So it could be her parents, but it also could be an aunt, a cousin, or something. But her son was going to be taken care of, but she wanted to go to rehab and better herself for her and her son, which is incredible. On November 5th, 2011, Samantha explained to her parents that night that, hey, the next morning on November 6th, I'm gonna be there in the morning. Can y'all please drive me to the rehab center, watch my son, and I just need y'all to do this for me. So her parents are like, yeah, of course, we're gonna help you out. And the next morning, November 6th, she never showed up. Jolene said that whenever she never showed up, she didn't freak out. She was just like, maybe she overslept, maybe she's packing some things together. So she tried calling her phone, no answer. And then that's whenever she started kind of getting a little uneasy feeling. They called her multiple times. They decided to go to her apartment. Whenever they knocked on the door, no answer. Whenever they rang the doorbell multiple times, no answer. So this is whenever they started freaking out. They went down to the leasing office, and this is where John tried to get the leasing office manager to open the door for him, saying that he needed to do a welfare check on his daughter, but because he wasn't on the lease, he was not allowed into the apartment complex. Not complex, he was not allowed into Samantha's single apartment. Jolene and John were constantly going back and forth with police and the apartment manager, and they weren't getting any help. They had even filed a police report and nothing was done for a few days, and it just seemed like there was no help. They knew something was wrong and nobody really cared. John remembered that Samantha had a cat, and he used this to his advantage by saying, hey, there's a cat in Samantha's apartment, hasn't eaten in days, we're gonna get the cat, just open up the door. So there was a maintenance guy that decided to let them in to go get the cat. John and Jolene said that as soon as the door opened, there was an overwhelming worry and something was completely wrong. It was in the middle of November and all of the windows were open, the fans were all on full blast, the AC was on, and the TV was on as loud as it possibly could be on. Samantha's parents explained that they were not worried about the cat at all. They were really using that just as a crutch to get into the apartment so they could see if Samantha was possibly in there. Jolene knew that there was a cat carrier in one of Samantha's closets, and so she was going to open it up, and this is whenever she yelled for John. Jolene and John sat there staring at their daughter's lifeless body that was just stuffed in a closet. Her face was down, so they couldn't see her, but they knew it was her daughter. Immediately, state police took over this investigation, and when police asked Jolene and John who could have been responsible for Samantha's death, they immediately, without hesitation, said Jesse Folsom. Whenever they sent Samantha's body off for an autopsy, that's whenever they had talked to Jolene and John, and Jolene and John explained that there was previous domestic abuse in their relationship, so that is probably why something might have happened. Jesse had abused her, and then she upped and moved away from them in California back home to Maine, and this was only a few days after she had came home, so it's possible. And then also there was another motive that Samantha had found a new boyfriend, and that could have also triggered something in Jesse to hurt her. But there's a problem with Jesse being the main suspect. Everybody's sitting here saying it's Jesse, it's Jesse. Jesse was in jail at the time of Samantha's death. He was in jail because of assaulting Samantha's new boyfriend. It's so confusing. It's like you want to say that it's Jesse, but there's no way that it's Jesse because he was in jail in California at the time that Samantha was in Maine. So who could have been? Jolene and John believed that maybe it was the new boyfriend. They had heard that he was also abusive and Samantha was trying to leave him as well, but he had an alibi. He was assaulted by Samantha's ex-husband, Jesse. But for him being assaulted by Jesse, they said that's the alibi, but really, the boyfriend was also in jail for assaulting Samantha. So the boyfriend was in jail for assaulting Samantha, and Jesse was in jail for assaulting the boyfriend. So the two main people that could have possibly done this to Samantha were in jail at the time. So since those two leads contradicted each other, there was no possible way that either of these two men were responsible for Samantha's death. Besides these two men, Samantha didn't have any enemies because she was described as a very happy person. Besides the demons that she was battling, she was really trying to get a better life, better for herself, better for her son, get clean and stay clean. So I don't know who she would be pissing off doing that. So it took over a year for Samantha's death to be determined a homicide. At the beginning, it was classified as undetermined because they didn't really know the cause of death, and then the cause of death came out that it was murder. Somebody did murder her, but the cause of death doesn't really explain how she was murdered. That information was never revealed. Scott Dolan was a reporter at the Portland Press Herald, and he said that whenever he was doing the research on this case, nobody had even talked about this case. There was no research done and there was no reports on it. There was just little to nothing written about who could have possibly been her murderer. It was almost as if nobody really cared. Scott decided he was going to do an investigation himself, and he was going to do all this research and do interviews with the Maine police who were on the case initially at the beginning, and then also he was just going to do interviews with like friends and family and just kind of get the inside scoop. But really he was kind of looking out for Samantha. But at the same time, he says that, but reporters are also just like hungry for like the next big thing and getting paid and everything like that. So I'm not sure if he really did care about Samantha, but whenever he was talking to the police about it at the beginning, he said that the police explained that since it was still an open investigation, they couldn't really give any more further details that they hadn't already given out to the public. The next group that Scott spoke to about the investigation happened to be Samantha's neighbors, and this is where they found out some new details that could have possibly helped the investigation. There was a neighbor that was Samantha's neighbor that Scott interviewed, where she explained that these detectives had came to her door and showed her a picture of a tall man with a dark complexion. In the picture, he was wearing a shirt with a tie and a badge, and they asked her to recognize this person, but that's the only person that the detectives had brought to her attention. This neighbor also explained that the day before Samantha's murder, the same neighbor explained that either the day of or the day before Samantha's murder, there was a person that had came banging on the door trying to get into Samantha's apartment, and whoever it was absolutely terrified Samantha because she was screaming and she could hear it through her apartment. At this moment, it is still an active investigation, but technically it is a cold case. I personally do not believe that this is a suicide, because this woman was trying to better herself and get clean for her and her kid and get a new life. I don't think that would have resulted in what it did. The way the apartment was set up with the fans and TV and everything just kind of explains that there was something fishy going on there. This wasn't a suicide at all. Samantha's death was so hard on her parents that after 35 long years of marriage, they did divorce. It's really sad that is something that drives two people away. I think that's heartbreaking. Jolene explains that she really does have severe PTSD from finding Samantha's body the way that she did, but it gives her closure knowing that Samantha's soul is in heaven while her body is in the St. Peter's Cemetery, which is beautiful. If that's the way that you help yourself to go through every single day, do what you gotta do. I think that's beautiful. There wasn't much to this case because it is still an active investigation. It didn't really have any closure with it, so I'm going to finish off this video by explaining if it wasn't the two men, who I think could possibly have done it. I think that, and this is not to be disrespectful, but I know how dangerous it is. I'm a criminal justice major. I read about it, not just from personal experiences, how dangerous it is in the drug community. If she was getting involved in some intense drugs, it is possible that she possibly owed money to somebody, or Jesse owed money to somebody from Maine whenever they moved to California. Jesse never came back to Maine, so it's possible that Samantha got what Jesse was supposed to get or something. And it's just terrifying to think that if those two men that were supposedly the ones who had done it, if there's no way that they could have done it, then it's scary to think who would have just randomly done it. A lot of murders are not random. Most murders are done by people that you know or have associated with at some point. It's terrifying to think that if she didn't have any enemies, who it could have been. And it is possible that there is a darkness and a different side to Samantha that nobody really saw, but I don't think that is I don't think that that's the case because of how vulnerable she was with her parents and how open she was of what was going on in her life. Yes, I'm getting abused by my boyfriend. Yes, I'm battling drugs. I feel like those are two really difficult things to admit to, especially your parents, so I don't think that is possible that she had like a different side and there's people that we don't know about. It is possible, but I don't think that's the case. It's terrifying because this person's not in jail at the moment. Like, this person is not serving and there's no justice for Samantha, and it's just unsolved. But it's mainly because the police didn't really do anything about her freaking murder. Like, the first few days could have found as much evidence. You could have pulled cameras, like security tapes from the freaking apartments. This one stresses me out because it's like, because it's an active investigation, it never really came to an end. They couldn't really explain more details, so I don't really have a lot of details to show you. I went through like 16 freaking articles, and they all basically said the same thing. I'm going to link down below the Maine State Police, their number, just in case if this video reaches somebody who lives in Maine or knows somebody who lives in Maine and they possibly know something about this case. There is a number down below for you to contact since they are the main people on the case. Just let me know down below your thoughts on who could it possibly have been. My theory was just since she was involved in the drug community, she might have possibly owed money or owed something, and it just turned out really sad. I'm not sure. That's just a theory. That's not actual fact. So I just want to know what you guys think and who you think could have possibly done this. I really want to tell you guys more, but I just can't. So if y'all enjoyed today's video, make sure you like and subscribe and tell your friends. Thank you guys for 350 subscribers. That is amazing, and I'm so pumped. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys next Thursday. Bye.